So, myth number one, calorie count, and everyone's favourite. This is the most popular and the most widely used concept, I suppose, of weight management or fat loss, which is calories in versus calories out. So again, going back to the thing at the start, you need to eat 1,500 calories, so in order to lose a pound of fat, you need to burn X amount per day, blah, 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 blah. On most of these diets, people are actually eating processed, harmful foods which aren't actually going to do any good to your body whatsoever. You've just seen a couple of them there. That pretty much explains that one for you. Does anyone actually know what a calorie is without even reading that? Probably should put that up there. Okay. It's pretty much, pretty much like a measure of energy, calorie. Basically, as you see on the screen there, it's the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 cubic centimetre of water by 1 degree Celsius. You didn't know that one? Okay. What you see on the back of your packets is a kilocalorie, which is 1,000 calories, and that's what I'll talk about that as if it's calories today, because it's easier to say. Which is basically the same thing, but how you can raise the amount of heat required to raise temperature of a kilogram of water by 1 degree. Okay. So what the hell that's going to do with you and your body, I'm not really too sure. You may think maybe that does sound fine because it sounds scientific or that sort of stuff, but we'll talk about that as we go on. Basically, to measure it, they use a little device which is like a test tube called a calorimeter. And then the food's popped in there and it's kind of like burned to a crisp, basically. However much it takes to raise the temperature of the water by 1 degree, then they're basically then going to assign a number to that food based on that. Okay, so you can see that's completely independent of human interaction. It's got nothing to do with actual what's going on in your body. It's actually done by some guy sat in a lab, probably in a miniature cheddars or something, burning food in a test tube. Okay, that's all that is about there. Okay, so basically they get burned in there. However much heat they get off, to get a number aside. The general rule, well, the basic thing which they've given you is that carbohydrates are worth 4 calories per gram. So in 10 grams of carbs, you're going to have 40 calories. Same for proteins. With your fats, it's 9 calories per gram. So if you're eating 10 grams of fat, then you've got 90 calories in there coming from the fat. Okay, that's the general rule. Again, you know, that sounds cool on face value. That's brilliant. So, what are we on now? We've already talked about that, so we don't. Oh, no, we haven't. Okay. So basically, the idea with that is that the number taken from burning the foods, they then sort of multiply it by your lean tissue, which is generally taken as everything except for your fat, bones and all. Okay? Because apparently the bones have the exact same caloric needs as your muscles. And then they basically calculate how much energy you need in order to gain or lose X amount of weight. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing with that. Okay, that might sound okay, it might make sense, but as I've already said, where the hell does the person come into this? Okay, this process is about burning food in a test tube. It's not about how a calorie affects you as a person in your body. Okay, and we're going to talk about individuality in a minute as well. So yeah, that's the sort of biggest point of it. It's very little to do with your actual body. It's sort of taken from the law of thermodynamics, in fact. Next one is that the numbers used for the equation, so the 4 for protein, 4 for carbs, 9 for fat, those numbers are taken as an average across the food groups. But in actual fact, a calorie of fat in one source is going to be different to a calorie of fat in the other one. So if they've given that number as 9, for instance, as a general rule, but something like coconut oil is, I think, something like 6.8 to 8.2 grams per calories per gram. Sorry, so there's quite a big difference if you're going to be sort of having 10, 15, 20, how many grams a day, based on all these numbers here. Okay, but basically these variants apparently don't matter because they're taken off the average. Okay, so that average food they're taken off. Okay, which you can just about understand. You know, that's not maybe not horrific. But when we're talking about averages, we've already done the foods. But who in here is an average person? who consider themselves average. See, a lot of people will, if I ask someone what sort of size they are, I'm probably about average. Or how good are you at tennis? About average. But when I talk to you in a minute about what I'm going to talk to you, there's not a single person here who's going to categorise themselves as average, I can guarantee that. So what does the average man look like? Is it me? Chris over there? Distinctly below average. Is it Kyle? Is it anyone there? I can't pick it. Maybe one of these guys is average. Alright? So a little treat for the ladies and something to make the guys feel a bit better there. Okay? He's gorgeous, isn't he? I don't mean to pick. What about the average woman? Okay, so we've got a pile of different ones there. I think we'll all agree that the one in the middle probably isn't the average one. I hope so. Again, with that, I don't know what clubs you're hanging out in on the weekends. Alright, cool. So we've got that now. Basically, who can determine what average is? And we're going to go into quite a lot of detail in that now, but I'll just try and whisk right through it. Okay, so basically, calories don't affect everyone in the same way. Okay, and all the things I'm about to talk to you about now is just going to really underline that and make you realise that it's not about counting calories, it's not about calories in versus calories out. Okay, so all these, you ready for this? Big bloody breath. All these things are going to affect it. Okay, so age. Alright? The older you are, generally, the slower your metabolism, the less calories you need to sustain life and do stuff. Okay? Sex or gender. Okay? Boys generally have more muscle and then generally have a higher metabolic rate, so they're going to burn more calories throughout the day. Physical fitness. This is a good one. If I am going to walk a mile, and I'm going to burn 100 calories walking that mile. Okay? I'm then going to walk that mile 2-3 times a day for a couple of weeks. The next time I go and walk that mile after a couple of weeks, I'm not burning 100 calories anymore because my body has then become a lot more efficient at walking that mile, which means instead of burning 100 calories, I'm going to be burning, say, 50. The body gets more efficient the more you train it, okay? Which means you've got to train it harder, you've got to work it harder. Okay? So physical fitness has a big effect. Muscular size. The more muscle you've got, the higher metabolism. Basically, muscle needs energy. The more muscle you've got, the more energy it's going to burn. Easy. Very, very simple. Injury status, recuperative ability, flexibility and mobility. The idea of that is that if I'm on a bench, the more range of motion I can get, the more muscle fibers are going to be recruited, the higher the energy demand, the higher the burn of the actual calories. Okay, so flexibility and mobility is in there. But I ain't done. Alertness and fatigue, muscle fibre arrangement, so that's sort of how the muscles are actually arranged in sort of like the belly of the muscle. Your lever lengths, mass and structure of your connective tissues, so your ligaments and your tendons. Points of origin and insertion, so where your muscles start, where your muscle finishes. Neuromuscular efficiency, which is basically the link up between your brain and your muscles, that's going to have a big effect. This next one is the absolute daddy when it comes to affecting a person's ability to burn calories, and that is your endocrine efficiency and effectiveness. So basically all your hormones. If your hormones are out of whack, then you ain't going to be burning calories as well as little lady over here whose hormones are in tip-top condition because she's training right for it and she's eating right for it. Okay? Hormones are the absolute big one in all of this. If, for instance, your thyroid isn't working properly, that can actually affect your calorie burning potential by up to about 50%. So if someone with a rubbish thyroid, if they eat 200 calories, the actual effect of that is going to be more like 300 calories because their thyroid's actually working at sort of half-mast. Okay? Still ain't done. Extensiveness of capillarization, motor unit efficiency, tolerance to pain and discomfort, stress levels and tolerance. Stress is a big one as well, comes a lot of that down to your hormones too. Your attitude, motivation, inspiration, goals are still not done. Your purpose, your mental alertness, mental recovery ability. Fuel intake in terms of actual calories is going to affect how many calories you're going to be burning. Your fuel intake in terms of the macronutrients, so your proteins, your carbs and your fats, we still ain't done. Fuel intake in terms of your micronutrients, your vitamins and your minerals. Basically you need those things to unlock the energy within the food. If you're eating all these microwavable meals and they've not got the minerals and the vitamins in there, how are you going to utilise the energy without the key to unlock it? You're not, is the question, is the answer to that one. The efficiency of your energy systems. mitochondrial development, proliferation, the use of supplementation, use of steroids, your general lifestyle, whether you sit on your butt all day at an office and don't do any exercise whatsoever, or whether you're a guy who's training 6, 7, 8 hours a week, still not done. Weather, altitude, temperature, noise, equipment quality, the environment you're in, and the atmosphere. All of these things affect a person's ability, an individual's ability, to burn calories. Every single thing. And science tells us, or tells you, tells me, that it's okay because it's based on the average guy. Who here is average? I certainly am not average when it comes to all of that. You write 100 PhD theses on all of those things and still wouldn't come close to be able to depict the average person. And even if you could, what's going to end to Timmy at the end of the spectrum over here and little Jamie down here at the opposite end? I think that's that one. Are we all sort of buying into the whole thing? Cool. We've missed probably the single biggest point. In fact, no, we haven't. It's already talked to you about it. Me and my mate who eats broccoli. Brilliant. Chocolate. Done. So we realise that's not the same. Easy. Cool. Smash it. Alright. So all it all comes down to is that, at the end of the day. If you're eating fresh, eating natural, eating well, you ain't going to overeat, you ain't going to get fat, you're going to lose fat. Okay? If you need to lose it, you'll lose it, as long as you're eating right. Yeah, we will go into a little bit more detail, but that's the nutshell. Okay. What is essential, what are the processes that we've talked about before with the bull sauna toilet, all those things, what they have in common, all of them, is that they are method-based. Okay, by that I mean that they are not soundly backed by firm principles that won't change. They're based on methods. So the method of telling someone they need to eat X amount of calories to burn X and burn X amount of calories in a day. All that sort of stuff is methods. Methods of drinking a skinny shake in the morning, eating some special K in the afternoon, and another skinny shake in the evening. It's all method-based stuff. There's no principle behind it. In a little quote there from Alan Cosgrove, who's one of the world's sort of top guys for fitness as well, and fat loss. Methods are many, principles few. Methods often changing, principles never do. So basically, if the principles are right, they ain't going to change. Okay? If you've got the principles to a good diet, a strong diet, good training, and strong training, then that's not going to change. It's going to stand the test of time. Certain things might change, but most of it's going to stay bang on. Okay, so what are the principles? The principles are we've pretty much talked about. Eat fresh, eat foods in their natural state as much as you possibly can. So lots of fresh fruit and vegetables, big surprise. Still a black little picture should pop up again there. And removing the foods that are known toxins, allergens and stressors. I don't think there's anyone in the world, or anyone in this room anywhere, that would sort of disagree with those three things being pretty damn essential for health as well as actually shifting fat. Would anyone not agree with it? Keep pens in the pocket. Okay, perfect. So that's the principles. Chances are that in a year's time I'll be chatting about a pile of different things, but the backbone of what we're talking about here is going to be exactly the same, which is those principles which we've just touched upon there. Okay, the principles aren't going to change. It's always going to be good for you to eat fresh veg. It's always going to be good for you to eat fresh meat, and it's always going to be good for you to eat it as much as you can in its natural state without eating any junk. Okay? Because this is what I was talking about at the start. You know it. You already know it. Like that. Really, really dead simple, the nutrition side of things.